There's a kind of stillness you only find in the early mornings out in Portland, Oregon, when the fog rolls down from the hills and the sunlight filters through pine trees outside the kitchen window. I sat at my usual spot at the old wooden table, newspaper in one hand, coffee in the other, breathing in the scent of fresh toast and the comfort of routine. I'd been retired for 8 years, and after my wife Margaret passed, mornings like this had become sacred, quiet, predictable, safe. But nothing is ever as safe as it seems. Dad, I've got a little surprise for you. My daughter Amanda's voice broke through my thoughts, that sing-song lilt she used whenever she wanted something. She stood in the doorway, her long hair tucked behind one ear, clutching a thick, tan envelope. Behind her, her husband Derek lingered, arms crossed and eyes darting around my kitchen like he was sizing up a property he meant to buy at auction. I set my paper aside, trying to read Amanda's face. Her smile was wide, but her eyes told a different story, a hint of nervousness, a flicker of something I didn't like. What kind of surprise? I tried to keep my voice light. Just open it, Dad. Please. She thrust the envelope into my hands, and for a moment, her fingers trembled. Derek gave a little nod, that fake confidence he'd mastered since moving in. This was my home, but lately it felt like I was the guest. The envelope was heavier than I expected. Some law firm from downtown Salem, the kind of place that sends bills nobody wants to pay. Inside were documents, pages and pages of statements, forms, and signatures. I pulled them out, spreading them across my kitchen table, my heart starting to pound. Official letterhead. Debt figures. My name at the top of every page. Derek cleared his throat, his voice slicing through the kitchen. We've been waiting to show you this. Amanda's smile faded as I scanned the first page, a list of debts totaling $400,000. Casino markers, maxed out credit cards, payday loans, even a line of credit I'd never seen before. What is this? My hand shook as I set my mug down, hot coffee sloshing dangerously close to the paperwork. I never signed up for these. I've never set foot in a casino, not even on the 4th of July. Amanda's tone turned sharp, the smile gone. We found these in your files, Dad. Last month, when we helped you reorganize your office. Remember? You said yourself you've been feeling overwhelmed by the bills. I remembered them rooting through my desk. Helping, as they called it. But I knew every document in that drawer, none of these were mine. My mind raced. Had someone stolen my identity? Amanda's voice was trembling now, but it was Derek who stepped forward, his eyes cold. Maybe you don't remember. Memory fades with age. But those are your signatures. He picked up a page and held it to the light. My signature stared back at me, every loop, every swoop. It looked just like mine. Too much like mine. Amanda's voice was barely a whisper now. It all needs to be paid by Friday, Dad. If not, we'll lose everything. The house, the car, our savings. All of it. I looked up at her, my only child, the girl I'd raised alone since her mother died, the one I'd put through college and helped buy her first car. Now, she was looking at me like I was the villain. Amanda, I didn't sign these. I don't have gambling debts. Somebody forged my name. For a moment, there was only silence, broken by Derek's mocking laugh. Sure, Ed. That's what everyone says. But the signatures match, the social security number matches, and your birth date is on every form. What, you think someone followed you around for 6 months, opening loans in your name? I stood up, my knees protesting, but my voice was steady. You're not pinning this on me. I know what's mine, and I know what isn't. This, I swept my hand over the documents, isn't. Amanda's eyes filled with tears. If you don't pay, Dad, they're coming for everything. Where are we supposed to go? Derek hasn't worked in months. We have nowhere else. Please, just help us. My mind reeled. How had it come to this? The house I'd worked 30 years to own, the savings I'd scraped together. Everything on the line for debts I never made. I'm not paying a cent for something I didn't do, I said, my voice quiet but final. The kitchen went cold. Derek took a step forward, crowding me toward the back door. Maybe you should think twice about that, he said, his voice low. Amanda reached for the coffee pot, hands shaking. You're being selfish, Dad. After everything we've done for you. I stared at her, the pain sharper than any wound. Family doesn't do this, Amanda. Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't forge signatures. Her face hardened. Maybe family doesn't gamble away everything either. And then, just like that, the room exploded. The next moment would burn itself into my memory, a moment when I realized that nothing, not even blood, can protect you from betrayal. The next few seconds unfolded in slow motion, though the memory of it would burn bright and raw in my mind for months to come. Amanda's trembling hands gripped the coffee pot, and before I could move or say another word, she swung it forward. Hot, bitter coffee sloshed through the air and struck my chest. I gasped, the heat searing straight through my shirt and into my skin. The pain was sharp, a sudden explosion of fire and humiliation. Derek didn't even flinch. He just stood there, arms folded, watching as I stumbled backward, trying to peel the soaked flannel away from my skin. Get out, Derek said quietly, the finality in his voice as cold as January in Portland. You heard me, Ed. Pack your things. This isn't your house anymore. I looked at Amanda, her face frozen, her lips pressed tight, eyes shining with a hatred I didn't recognize. For a split second, she looked almost sorry, but it passed so quickly I wondered if I'd imagined it. This is my house, I shouted, the pain and anger mixing in my throat. My name is on the deed. I paid every mortgage payment, every tax bill. Not anymore, Derek interrupted. By tomorrow, the bank will have a lien on this place, thanks to all those debts you racked up. But Amanda and I, we'll figure something out with the creditors. Now pack whatever you can carry, and get out. I stared at both of them, searching for a glimmer of the daughter I'd loved and raised. I didn't see her. Only strangers now, standing in my kitchen, plotting my downfall. With my burned chest aching and my dignity in tatters, I turned toward my bedroom. Derek blocked the hallway for a moment, like he wanted to make sure I understood who was in charge now. 5 minutes, he said. And don't bother taking anything that isn't yours. I moved past him without a word, each step heavier than the last. The pain of the burns was nothing compared to the feeling that I was being erased from my own life. Inside my bedroom, I pulled off my shirt and examined the angry red patches across my chest and stomach. The damage wasn't deep, but it hurt like hell. I forced myself to focus, grabbing a small suitcase from the closet and packing it with 3 days' worth of clothes, my medications, and the battered manila folder from the bottom desk drawer, the one with my property deed, my will, and my insurance papers. Amanda and Derek hadn't found those. Not yet. I stuffed my wallet and keys in my pocket, checked for cash, $200, barely enough, but it would have to do, and zipped up the suitcase. The whole time, I listened to the muted voices from the kitchen, Amanda crying, Derek's low growl. The details blurred together, but the message was clear, my time was up. 10 minutes later, I slipped out the back door, avoiding the main hallway where Derek might be waiting for a final insult. The air outside was cool and sharp, and I shivered as the morning wind bit through my thin shirt. My neighbor, Tom Hayes, had lived next door since retiring from the post office a dozen years ago. We'd swapped stories and tools over the backyard fence more times than I could count. His kitchen light was on, and I could see him reading the paper, his own version of a peaceful morning. I hesitated a second, then knocked gently on the door. Tom answered in his old green bathrobe, a look of concern deepening on his face when he saw me. Ed, what the hell happened to you? Worse than a ghost. Tom, I managed, voice shaking more from anger than pain. I need a place to sit down and think. Do you mind? He stepped aside immediately, letting me in and pulling out a chair at his kitchen table. Sit. I'll get you some ice for that burn and something stronger than coffee to drink. I set my suitcase on the floor and collapsed into the chair, the shock finally catching up to me. I felt old. I felt beaten. But underneath it all, something hard and stubborn was beginning to stir. As Tom poured a glass of bourbon and pressed a bag of frozen peas into my hand, I told him everything: the surprise envelope, the forged debts, Amanda's outburst, Derek's threats. I showed him the documents, the signatures that looked too much like mine. Tom shook his head, a frown carving deep lines in his forehead. That's fraud, Ed. That's criminal. You can't just let them get away with this. I know, I said quietly. But she's my daughter. It's not supposed to happen this way. Tom's jaw tightened. Family doesn't do this, Ed, criminals do. For a long time, we sat in silence. I sipped the bourbon, feeling it burn all the way down, and stared at my hands. The kitchen was warm, filled with the smell of bacon and the hum of the refrigerator, ordinary things that made the morning feel even more surreal. Then Tom leaned forward, his voice low and serious. You need to call the police. Right now, before they destroy any more evidence. And Ed, don't go back there. Not alone. I nodded, the decision made for me at last. I reached for Tom's old rotary phone and dialed 911. As the call connected, I realized this was a bridge I could never uncross. Tom hovered nearby as I spoke with the 911 dispatcher, my voice steadier than I felt. I explained, maybe for the first time out loud, what had happened. My daughter assaulted me in my own house, and her husband threatened me. They handed me forged debt documents, tried to force me out. I have burns on my chest from hot coffee she threw at me. They're still there, Amanda and Derek Peterson. Yes, I'm safe now. I'm next door at my neighbor's house. The dispatcher's calm professionalism made the whole thing feel suddenly more real. She asked about weapons, history of violence, whether I needed medical attention. I pressed a cold pack against my chest and said I'd wait for the officers. I gave them Tom's address and my home address, spelling the names. Officers will be there within 20 minutes. Please stay where you are. I hung up, feeling that mixture of shame, anger, and relief you only get when you finally admit something's gone too far. Tom poured another splash of bourbon in my glass and set it in front of me. You did the right thing, Ed, he said quietly. They crossed a line today that can't be uncrossed. I nodded, numb. She's still my daughter, Tom. He met my eyes, his voice gentle but unyielding. She was your daughter, Ed. But that woman in your kitchen isn't the girl you raised. She made her choice. Now you have to make yours. The grandfather clock in Tom's hallway ticked out the minutes. We didn't talk much. I sat at his table, nursing the pain in my chest and the deeper pain in my heart, listening for the sound of sirens or car doors outside. Finally, red and blue lights flashed through the frosted window. 2 officers, one young, with a buzz cut, the other older, hair streaked with gray, stepped up to Tom's porch. I opened the door and introduced myself, my hands shaking a little less than before. Mr. Evans? The older officer asked, glancing at the burn marks visible above my collar. I'm Officer Williams, this is Officer Green. Can we see your injuries? I unbuttoned my shirt enough to show them the angry red splashes across my chest and neck. Officer Green took careful photos while Officer Williams took notes, asking about the incident, my relationship with Amanda and Derek, whether I'd ever felt threatened before. I handed over the documents Amanda and Derek had shown me, the fake debts, the forged signatures. All of this is in my name, but none of it's mine, I said, trying to keep my voice level. Officer Williams flipped through the pages, his eyebrows rising. This is fraud on a massive scale. Did you give them access to your personal information? No, I said quietly. But they'd been living with me for years, always asking to help with the bills, the taxes, the paperwork. I thought I was helping them. Green looked at his partner. We'll need to secure the evidence at your house and talk to the other parties. Are you willing to return and show us what's there? Tom stood up, hands balled into fists. I'm going too. Together, we walked across the yard, me, Tom, and the two officers. My house looked smaller than usual, the garden untended, blinds closed tight. Officer Green knocked on the door. Police! Open up! Shuffling and low voices. Amanda opened the door, face pale as she saw the uniforms. Derek loomed behind her, jaw set. Amanda Peterson? Officer Williams stepped forward. We need to speak with you about an incident reported this morning. Please come with us to the living room. I stood in the hallway as the officers separated Amanda and Derek, questioning each of them in different rooms. I listened as Amanda tried to explain, her voice wobbling between outrage and fear. It was an accident. He slipped. He's always been clumsy. He's not himself lately, he gets confused. Officer Williams returned to me after 20 minutes, his voice official. Based on the evidence and statements, Mr. Evans, we have probable cause for arrest. Would you like to press charges for assault and fraud? For a moment, the room spun. Press charges against my own daughter? My mouth was dry as sand. But I remembered Tom's words, the scald on my skin, the look in Derek's eyes. I nodded, my voice low. Yes. I want to press charges. From the window, I watched as Amanda and Derek were handcuffed and led outside, Amanda sobbing, Derek glaring at me like it was all my fault. The neighbors watched from behind their curtains as the patrol car doors closed with a heavy finality. Tom squeezed my shoulder. It's done, Ed. You're safe now. But as the cars pulled away, all I felt was exhaustion, a bone-deep fatigue from years of trying to fix what was already broken. Back inside Tom's kitchen, I sat heavily and let him pour me a cup of black coffee. This time, it was just coffee, not a weapon, not a symbol of betrayal. What happens now? I asked, not really expecting an answer. He shrugged. Lawyers, courts, maybe restitution. It'll take time. But you've got your house. You've got your life. That's a start. I stared out the window at the place I used to call home, wondering if it could ever feel like home again. After the police left, Tom insisted I stay at his house at least for the night, maybe longer. You can't go back there until the investigation's done, he said. And you shouldn't be alone after something like this. I was too tired to argue. Tom's wife, Linda, made up the guest room with fresh sheets and left a pile of towels on the dresser. I tried to thank her, but she just patted my hand and said, Your family here, Ed. Let us take care of you for once. The room was small, painted a soft blue, with a view of Tom's backyard garden, late roses clinging to their last blooms, a stone bird bath under the old maple. I set my suitcase by the bed and sat down, the weight of the day pressing on my shoulders. The coffee burn stung, but the pain was nothing compared to the ache in my chest when I thought of Amanda. My daughter. My only family left. Or so I believed. I couldn't sleep. My mind spun with questions. How long had Amanda and Derek been planning this? Had Amanda forged those signatures herself, or was it all Derek's doing? Was there a moment I could have stopped it, or had I missed every warning sign? I stared at the ceiling, replaying every conversation, every request for money, every time Amanda called herself just unlucky, or blamed Derek's failures on bad bosses or worse luck. Guilt gnawed at me. Had I created this mess by being too forgiving, by loving her too much and saying yes too often? Late that afternoon, Tom brought in a sandwich and some soup. I hadn't realized how hungry I was until I smelled the food. He sat down at the foot of the bed. I called my friend Carol Jenkins. She's an attorney. Knows a lot about elder abuse and fraud. She'll meet us tomorrow, free of charge for the first consult. Elder abuse. The words made my stomach twist. Was that really what this was now? The law said yes, but my heart still fought against it. Tom must have read my thoughts. You're not the first person this has happened to, Ed. People trust family because we're supposed to. But sometimes, the people we trust most do the most damage. That's why there are laws for this. I nodded, grateful for his blunt kindness. Thanks, Tom. For everything. He shrugged. That's what friends are for. Besides, I owe you for all those times you fixed my gutters and watched my dog. I managed a smile, small but real. As the sun set, the sky over Portland went lavender and gold. I stood at the window, looking out at the streetlights flickering on one by one, and tried to imagine my future. My home would need new locks, maybe a security system. My daughter, my Amanda, would face charges. Would she go to jail? Would Derek? The idea twisted me up inside, but I couldn't see another way out. There was a knock on the door. Linda poked her head in. Phone for you, Ed. It's your neighbor 2 houses down, Mrs. Stewart. I took the call in the kitchen. Mrs. Stewart, always the neighborhood gossip, wasted no time. Ed, is it true the police arrested Amanda and Derek? I saw the whole thing from my front window. Are you all right? I thanked her for her concern, answered her questions as simply as I could, and promised I'd keep her posted. She was kind in her own way, but I knew by morning everyone on the block would know what happened. After I hung up, Tom poured me a cup of tea. It'll blow over, he said. People have short memories when it comes to other folks' troubles. I sipped the tea, feeling its warmth in my hands. You think so? He nodded. Give it time. You'll get your life back, Ed. Maybe not the same as before, but better than letting them walk all over you. I carried the tea back to my room, closed the door, and sat at the little desk by the window. I opened my battered manila folder and started reviewing the documents I'd grabbed: the deed to my house, my insurance, my will. Everything I had left, right there in that folder. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, I let myself believe that there might be a way forward. The next morning, I barely touched my breakfast. My chest still hurt, a dull, steady throb, but I ignored it as best I could. Tom drove me to Carol Jenkins' law office in downtown Portland. The drive was quiet, each of us lost in thought. The city outside was waking up: coffee shops, dog walkers, delivery vans. Life going on, indifferent to my private disaster. Carol greeted us with a steady handshake. She was a sturdy woman in her 60s, with gray hair cut short and eyes that missed nothing. She listened without interrupting as I told the story: Amanda's surprise, the forged debts, the assault, the arrests. She flipped through my manila folder and the photos I'd taken of the fake documents. When I finished, Carol closed the folder and nodded. Mr. Evans, you did the right thing coming to us. This is a textbook case of elder financial abuse and domestic battery. The law is on your side here. You won't lose your house. But it's going to be a long fight. She explained what would happen next. Police would finish gathering evidence. The DA would decide on charges. Amanda and Derek would have court-appointed lawyers if they couldn't afford their own. You'll need to stay somewhere safe until you get a court order keeping them away from your property. And you'll want to change every lock on the house. Tom nodded grimly. Already made some calls? Carol's advice was practical, not sugar-coated. Don't answer the phone if Amanda calls. Don't talk to Derek at all. Let everything go through the police or your attorney. If they tried to contact you, save every voicemail and letter. They could be used as evidence later. After we left Carol's office, Tom insisted on stopping by my house to collect my mail and a few more belongings. The sight of my front door, with the police sticker across it, hit me like a punch. My hands shook as I unlocked the mailbox. The mailbox was stuffed. Bills, advertisements, and a handwritten envelope with no return address. I recognized Amanda's handwriting instantly. For a moment, I just stared at it, the temptation almost overwhelming. But I remembered Carol's words. I slid the letter into my folder, unopened. Back at Tom's, I sat at the kitchen table and tried to steady my nerves. Linda was in the garden, pruning her roses, and Tom read the sports section. I felt like a ghost haunting someone else's life. The phone rang. Tom answered, listened for a moment, then held the receiver out to me. "It's Officer Williams. Wants to update you." I took the call. Williams sounded brisk, but not unkind. "Mr. Evans, we've gathered statements from Amanda and Derek. Both deny wrongdoing, but we've got the debt paperwork, your medical report, and the coffee burns documented. We're forwarding everything to the DA. Do you need a victim advocate?" I hesitated, then said, "Maybe. I just don't want them coming back. We're requesting a temporary restraining order. You'll be notified about your court date soon. In the meantime, do not let them back in. If they contact you, call us immediately." After the call, I slumped in my chair, the weight of everything settling on me. I thought about the years I'd spent trying to keep Amanda safe and happy, the late nights, the tuition payments, the wedding bills, all the little sacrifices. None of it had prepared me for this. That afternoon, Tom and I changed every lock on my house. The locksmith worked quickly, replacing the deadbolts, securing the windows, and installing a new alarm system. As I walked through my own living room, it felt different, emptier, maybe, but also cleaner. My house, my rules again. The news spread quickly. Mrs. Stewart called again, this time to offer her son's help with yard work. A neighbor from 3 doors down dropped off a casserole. Wordless kindnesses, the sort that make you realize how long you've been suffering alone. Late that evening, as I sat in Tom's guest room, I finally opened Amanda's letter. Her handwriting was neat, almost childish. She apologized, blamed Derek, begged me to forgive her. "You're all I have left, Dad," she wrote. "Please, let's talk. I'll do anything." I folded the letter and put it away. I didn't know what to feel, anger, pity, heartbreak. Maybe all of them at once. One thing was certain, the old life was over. The next chapter would be mine alone to write. Weeks passed in a blur of paperwork and meetings. Carol Jenkins took over the legal headaches, filing injunctions and fielding calls from prosecutors. Tom and Linda's house became my sanctuary, a place to heal and think. I walked their garden paths every morning, letting the cool Oregon air clear my mind, reminding myself that life, somehow, would go on. Every few days, something new arrived in the mail: a court summons, a police report, an official letter. Derek's gambling debts turned out to be even bigger than I'd feared, scattered across states I'd never visited. Carol explained the process. They'll both be charged. Derek for fraud, likely grand larceny. Amanda for assault and conspiracy. The DA wants to make an example. You're not alone, Ed. I tried to believe her, but at night doubts crept in. I replayed memories from Amanda's childhood, searching for signs of the woman she'd become. Had she always been so desperate, or had life with Derek turned her cold? I'd raised her after Margaret died, worked overtime to give her opportunities, held her through every heartbreak and disappointment. Was it possible I'd loved her too much, made her believe the world owed her something? The first court hearing came and went. I sat at the back, watching Amanda enter in a gray jumpsuit, hair tied back, eyes red and downcast. She wouldn't look at me. Derek glared at everyone, as if the world was to blame for his failures. The judge listened to Carol, then to Amanda's public defender. The charges were read, bail denied. When the judge said, "Elder abuse," Amanda finally met my gaze, her expression a mixture of shame and pleading. Afterward, I found myself wandering along the Willamette River, watching the city lights shimmer on the water. For the first time since Amanda's betrayal, I felt something besides pain, a strange kind of relief. The truth was out. No more pretending, no more walking on eggshells in my own home. I was free, and freedom, I realized, was sometimes more valuable than family. But freedom was lonely too. Tom and Linda never pried, but they were always there. One evening, Linda brought me a small bouquet of wildflowers from the backyard and set it on my bedside table. "Time heals, Ed," she said softly. "But it doesn't mean you forget. It just means you learn to live with the scar." In the following weeks, Amanda wrote more letters from jail. I read the first few, each one a mix of apology and rationalization. She blamed Derek, the pressure, her fear of losing everything. "I need you, Dad," she wrote. "You're my only family. Please forgive me." I didn't answer. I let the letters pile up in my desk drawer, unsure if I would ever be ready to read them again. Derek, meanwhile, spiraled. The DA's investigator uncovered a web of debt, illegal betting, and even attempts at forging documents in other people's names. The bank repossessed his car. His name was splashed across the local paper. "Former businessman faces felony charges in elder fraud scheme." His lawyer tried to negotiate, but the evidence was overwhelming. Neighbors continued to stop by. Some with casseroles, some just to check in. A few avoided me, unsure what to say. The gossip died down, but the memory lingered in every look, every awkward silence at the mailbox. Carol kept me updated. "The state's pushing for restitution. You'll likely get some money back, eventually. But the real victory is getting your house and your dignity back." I nodded, but money felt like the least of what I'd lost. Then, one rainy morning, a police cruiser pulled up in front of Tom's house. Officer Williams stepped out, hat in hand. "Ed just wanted you to know, Derek pled guilty. He'll serve time. Amanda's case will go to trial, but her lawyer's angling for a plea deal with probation and mandatory counseling. The restraining order will stay in place for now." It was almost over. Relief washed over me, a gentle, bittersweet wave. I could go home again, sleep in my own bed, walk my own halls without fear. Tom and I changed the last of the locks, checked the alarm system. The house felt emptier, but somehow lighter. My battered manila folder, now filled with new court orders and official papers, went back into the safe. That night, as I sat alone in my quiet living room, I let myself grieve. Not just for Amanda, but for the man I used to be, the father who believed love alone could fix anything. I understood now that some things, and some people, can't be saved. You have to save yourself. For the first time in years, I slept through the night without waking from nightmares. A month after Derek's sentencing, life started to settle into a new rhythm. Some days it still felt strange to wake up alone in my old house, sunlight warming the kitchen floor, silence so complete I could hear my own heartbeat. Other days I felt the kind of peace I hadn't known in years. Tom and Linda stopped by often, sometimes with groceries, sometimes just to share a laugh over coffee. The first time I made breakfast for myself, the toast tasted different, not bitter, but sharp and clear, like I was finally tasting the present instead of chewing on the past. I spent my mornings puttering around the garden, pulling weeds, planting winter bulbs, fixing the little things Derek had let go. Piece by piece, my house became mine again. One Saturday, I sat at the kitchen table, newspaper in hand, when a new envelope slid through the mail slot. The return address was the Women's Shelter in East Portland. Amanda's handwriting on the front. I let it sit unopened for hours, then finally tore it open after dinner. She wrote that she was trying, really trying, to build a new life. She had a part-time job at the shelter, was attending counseling sessions, and had started volunteering with a group that helps families avoid falling into debt. "I know I hurt you, Dad," she wrote. "I know I can't fix it all with words, but I want to make it right. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want you to know I'm changing." I sat there for a long time, the letter trembling in my hands. Forgiveness wasn't something you gave because someone deserved it. Sometimes you forgave because it was the only way to set yourself free. I didn't write back, not yet. But for the first time, I considered it. With the court's order, Amanda had to pay restitution, a small monthly check for damages, a reminder of consequences, and a sign she was trying. The first one arrived with a short note. I'm sorry. I hope someday we can talk. The months moved quickly after that. Derek's name faded from the news. He served time, then drifted away, chasing work somewhere down south. I never heard from him again, and I didn't care to. Amanda called once, just once, to tell me she'd finished her probation, was still clean, still working, and that she loved me. I let her talk, and when she finished, I said, "Thank you for calling, Amanda. I wish you well." It was all I could offer. Through all this, I rediscovered myself, not just the father or the victim, but Ed Evans, the man who'd built a life with his own hands, who still had dreams left to chase. I signed up for a cooking class at the community center. Took a few day trips along the coast. Made friends with a widower from my veterans group, and together we rebuilt an old park bench, laughing at our own bad carpentry. The old kitchen calendar, once crowded with Amanda's appointments and Derek's job interviews, now held new plans: dinner with Tom and Linda, a fishing trip in the spring, maybe a drive to see the cherry blossoms next March. The weight in my chest slowly faded, replaced by something lighter, hope, maybe, or just the certainty that I could handle whatever life brought next. On a quiet evening, I sat on the back porch, watching the sky fade from orange to indigo. The garden was ready for winter, the air was crisp, and for the first time in a long time, I realized I was looking forward, not back. My life was different now, smaller in some ways, but truer. And if Amanda ever found her way back, not just to my house, but to the part of herself she'd lost, I'd be here. Wiser, cautious, but open to forgiveness, one day at a time. As the sun set, I raised my coffee cup, a symbol once of pain, now of peace, and toasted to new beginnings. To survival, to self-respect, and to the stubborn, hopeful heart of an old man who refused to be broken.